Oh, good morning. Thanks for joining me for another coffee jam and a chat. Where's my coffee? 1 second. I like the idea of going live because it's more of a practice of public speaking. A lot of my other videos, if I say take some time to think of something, because I am kind of free flowing in my thoughts when I speak. So sometimes I hit a spot and when I'm thinking and I'm like, and I say it wrong. So I'll just cut that spot out and say it how I want to say it. And that's what's nice about, recording and editing. However, live is like a whole other thing, right? It's like the same thing in a music studio when you go in and you make your beats and make sure they're perfect. Everything sounds just perfect, and that's like an art of itself, is to try to like make everything sound just polished. But then there's the kind of art that's been lost, especially in music, probably the last 20 years or more, where the kind of the raw feeling, the things that aren't perfect, when people speak and it's not perfect this first time, when you see a person go, no, I mean this, and you can see them stumble up. Some people don't have the patience for that. However, patience is where you can really find a lot of wisdom when you can listen and to stuff that even a lot of it maybe you don't understand. I listen to a lot of Jordan Peterson. Sometimes he loses me because he goes above me, right? And then but then after a time I'll experience what he's talking about and I'm like, oh, that's what it is. So sometimes we have to be patient even through the stuff we don't seem to understand at the time. Got a rainy day out here in Weimar, BC, just near Nelson, BC, Canada. And I want to say there's some things going on here in Canada. And I just looked at my YouTube studios lately, and it seems like most of the people that are watching down in the United States. So I appreciate everyone and that's been, supporting this channel by just watching. And please at any time leave me a message down below and we can start a conversation. And I live in a place where there isn't a ton of people that think like I do, and at least none that I know how to connect to. I'm big at the online, like social media or any of that stuff. I'm just like a real person that just wants to meet naturally. And I think that it's hard in these times when you live out in the woods and gas prices are as high as they are. So, sometimes meeting people online and being able to know that other people think the way that I think, or can even teach me some things about what we're talking about. The title to this video is "What Would Christ Do Now or Today?" And I guess first I want to what does Christ mean to me? First of all, Christianity. If I were to call myself a Christian, and I think that everyone should have their own unique experience with God, and that's why it's hard for us to just be like, if you don't follow this perfectly, then you're not Christian. Well, those some people used what was in this for evil, like the Pharisees. So that's why you have a very true and in your heart, you have to have that conversation to know what Jesus Christ is. If you can look into here, because there's lots of examples of him flipping over tables and causing chaos, or maybe stopping chaos, and then other times where he's turning the other cheek and loving, and even to the people that are putting him on the cross. And so those are really great examples. However, what does it mean to me, like personally? Like, how can these are different times with different things going on. Well, maybe not. There's a lot of stuff going on that really reminds me about what's going on in the Bible, and that's why I found so much wisdom in this book, is because it's showing all these repeating. We're just repeating time again. We have just different things going on in this time. We have a lot of electronics and biological weapons and like weird technological stuff going on. And what we also have is I'll get to that actually in a second. I'll hold that off to the side. um what Christ is to me is the willingness to always stand when you think something is unjust, to always stand and speak when you think somebody is speaking pathology to the world that could spread, to always stand if you see somebody weaker being bullied by somebody else, regardless of your own taking care of yourself. It's like the hero's journey to always be that virtuous person that never runs from the fight, but it's that the fight for the spirit. It's that fight to spread the Christ consciousness, which is truth. And that's, to me, is the warrior's hero's journey. It's the ultimate hero's journey in all time. To every time I see somebody spreading some weird stuff or pathologizing this or that, and I have a reason to go against it, I need to. And like, and this is my oath to God. And this is the same oath I talk about in other things like the Eke Becca, the reggae artist, and he took this oath also from the Book of Enoch, and that was the oath of truth and the oath between Archangel Michael and God, and that's to live out that archetype of the the person that has the swords, knows how to use them, but keeps them sheathed, and can always keep it sheathed because of how much God will always help you speak that truth. And I think that that's why we have to, people that have taken this oath have to be very careful. If you're willing to die, if you're willing to stand up all the time in all these situations, then you have to stay away from certain situations. Like, is that a hill you want to die on? Maybe God wants you to do something way more important later. So like, why die on that hill? So sometimes we have to ask that question, so we don't want to, we have to stay out of positions or areas that'll make you act to your oath. For example, like, and it's easy when you start living with God, you start living away from alcoholism and all the party scene and all that stuff. But those are the kind of places that you stay away from, because when there's alcohol involved and drugs and all these things, then you're likely going to get to have to stand up for somebody that's doing something stupid, and you're around all of that energy. Then you may be like standing up for somebody that's maybe you don't know the whole story, you don't know this or that, so you have to like be centered in what Christ is. You and to me, the times that, so that's why another thing about Christ consciousness is or to be, what kind of things that you get when you start speaking the truth is kind of magical, because it's almost like when you start to practice speaking from a truth that comes from your heart, you start to channel from God. And when you can get that, he gives you amazing ability to draw from the collective consciousness or the Akashic records or all of these things, and people are all downloading, a lot of people that maybe don't have the ability to receive from the Akashic records, the one source energy that this, wherever that download goes to. I do believe that it's less easy to receive, but if you learn how to receive, then you'll be able to transmit to those that can't receive. And but I do believe almost everybody that is learning, that's like upgrading consciousness around the world, because we're upgrading the Akashic records. And so when as everybody's getting higher and higher, we're all getting higher and higher. Hence why they're this trying to shut us down with all this evil shit in the world right now. So they know that the collective consciousness is it's getting to um too many people are becoming conscious and awake. So this is going to be where Rome falls, where they're not going to be able to play their games anymore. Not only that, we're seeing so much of the evil that they've done. We're going to take back our land. We're going to get rid of the royal family. We're going to probably even a lot of people there's going to be a lot of people losing their houses at the same time. Do you think we might just all come together and maybe, you know, say we're keeping our houses, like you guys you're taking some money off of our mortgages, or you're clearing the rent, our bills altogether. Like we're at that point right now. There's going to be at the point where they know they're at a bad spot in time, and that um they need to do something drastic, and it might be like relieving our debts, and that's something that I think we should collectively try to manifest, you know. And I do think that when we're trying to take on the hero's journey and always spread that truth and stuff, we have to remember as we start, we're going to be learning how to do it. And you have to be so humble, and that you're going to learn, because when you speak, you're going to hear if what you said was right in your own heart. You're gonna be like, no, that's not what I meant, or that kind of word was kind of clumsy. It doesn't seem like a stone I should have stepped on. But other people can call you out for that, and that raises you up. And if you go, oh yes, you're right, then that's the logos, and that's us dual dialogue, right? So that's again, and Jordan Peterson talks about this, is that's what the logos is a connection, like, to Christ, consciousness of Christ. And that's like religiosity around truth and around light, you know. So and as I read this book, which in one of my videos, it was on the book of Enoch and some other things. I had a experience where God showed me how they used this book for evil, and I threw it out the door. Not this one, a different version. This one's a lot more to me. But as I started to really get into it, I realized it's an amazing book, and it's so powerful, and it is a guide to life. And so, you know, there's things in here that I'm probably going to come across where I don't agree with, and also there's things in here that people use in the wrong situations, like apples and oranges, and they use that a lot rather than they going to their heart. And that's why, like, being overly religious rather than spiritual or connected to the spirit, so you can discern when you're using this properly or not by that feeling in your heart, right? A lot of what I was scared of Christianity about, the more research I did, like I just did a video on this about, you know, people worried about sage and crystals and yoga and all this, and I had to make a reaction video to these people, because this is the continuation of the witch hunt. And to be honest, those are the things about Christianity I didn't like. But then when I researched it, I found out that there's tons of crystals in here. It says nothing about don't do sage. It says nothing about yoga. But this is what that dark part of, and I don't even want to call it Christianity. I think it's like false Christianity. It's like some kind of ego that religious people can get in, where they start casting stones in ways that they don't even understand. So like I think that I know that anybody that is truly in Christ or Jesus, trying to be what Jesus would be in all situations, trying to bring that consciousness of Christ into their heart and into their minds, then they would be just like the most benevolent father and the most benevolent mother in every single way. That's how you would that's what their fruit should show. You know, so when I think about God, is God wants us to have free will. So when you see all of these governments around the world going into totalitarianism and using fear and all of this stuff, and they're our leaders, that's how you know it's Satan. God does not use fear. He casts fear out. And when you know of God, fear does not exist. So when the Antichrist, the leaders that are not benevolent by their fruit, and if their fruits are totalitarian and and like bullies and using fear to get you to do things, that's far from godly. God's the one that's always there, and he wants you to do whatever you want to. When you come to God, that was your choice. You should not be forced into any of these rules, and that's to me how we have to be if you want to be living kind of in a Christ conscious way, you know. And I'll probably do another video on this because I want to get to the jam, and we're already like 18 minutes in here. But I there's I've had this like kind of visions about, and it kind of came up between like my brother, because he's really wants to be knowledgeable and connected to knowledge, and he really seeks that out. However, he's missing one of the biggest things, and that's a connection to God, and that's where true wisdom comes out. Some of the most intellectual people, like Sam Harris, they hit a wall. They're only half intelligent. They may be really intelligent in that half, and my brother is very intelligent in that half, but that becomes egotistical, and they miss that connection to collective consciousness that can bring them to that higher truth. And it'll be hard harder for them to get into the logos, which is what Christ is about. And I thought about like all these things like the Neuralink and these like it, there's even like transhumanist movements where they're talking about having like people using nanotechnology so that people can connect to this electronic collective consciousness. And that scares the heck out of me to think about that, because there'll be so many people seeing people like myself and other people awakening and getting connected to this higher self, which is God. And they'll be like, why am I not? And they, instead of going through the ego death they need to go through, going through the fires that burn all the wrong parts about them off, which is how you get to the kingdom of God. And you have to go through the fires. And a lot of these people, they're so scared to go through the fires that they're likely will take this transhumanist collective consciousness AI thing. And maybe that is the true mark of the beast, right? And I just know that they can use like frequencies. They can direct audio and high frequency straight to a person's skull. And a single person, 1,000 people in a room, they could have one person hear a voice in their head. And when I think about all of this stuff that's going to happen, and what kind of thoughts they could make happen in people's heads, and what kind of atrocities they could make these people do with those kind of technologies, I sometimes wonder how long they've had these technologies, and I wonder if these things are a part of what happened in places like Rwanda, or maybe even as far back as Germany in World War II. You know. So I got real tinfoil hatty there, but to be honest, life is way, way weirder. Reality is way weirder than fiction, and we're living in we're living in a sci-fi movie right now. If anybody hasn't noticed, and we're living in biblical times. That's like sci-fi movie together, and this is kind of what I imagine what happened to Atlantis. Like two worlds of like technology and advancement that took us away from our connection to God, and then these other people that were connected, and that thing just exploded together. Or maybe there wasn't started to be so many people not connected that it just collapsed the whole thing. Well, I don't see that happening this time. I don't think we need that many people awakened to make sure that we win this war. It's a spiritual battle more than it is a physical battle. as much as we can see it manifesting in this realm, of course it's going to, as above so below. We have to remember is our spirits are much powerful, and what we put into that collective consciousness is way more powerful than any of the stories they can inject into the bots. And to me, most people are bots these days. And I don't want to sound terrible, like, but there's more people that have gone into cognitive dissonance because of that that they got, and they don't want to look at all the proof that's what's going on. So they just keep looking at the people that's feeding him this stuff, and they become completely um, there's no humanity left in them. There's no human parts left in them. They're not a unique person anymore. They're just a fractal of everybody else that watches those that's stuck in the matrix. And I don't believe everyone stuck in the matrix is a bot, but if you're in the matrix and you're like life's perfect, you're likely living in a weird utopia, and you probably need to go back to the Garden of Eden and eat an apple and put some clothes on. Well, I'm gonna get into a little jam here. So thanks again for joining me in this coffee jam. And sometimes in the live feed, you'll notice that I'm on satellite internet, so it can go in and out. So sorry about that when that comes up. Anyways, much love, guys.
must learn wiser, wiser. Than they say. You must learn. You're wiser, much wiser. Than they say. You must learn wiser, much wiser. Oh, oh, oh. Than they say. You're much wiser. You must learn. Wiser, wiser, much wiser. You're much wiser. Oh, oh, much wiser than they say. You're much wiser. You must learn. Wiser. So when you trust in God, He will lead you to that higher truth. You must trust that all the pain that you go through is meant to be. Many people ask, if there's a God, then why would He create all the pain and evil in the world? All of that darkness is what chisels us into strength. You can't become strong without something pushing against you. This realm we live in now is the realm where we're tested with these five senses and this flesh body. And we have to know that when we can transcend that, we become much wiser. Much wiser. Than they say. You're much wiser. You must learn. Then they say you must believe.
Thank you guys so much for joining me for another coffee jam and a chat. I hope everyone has a beautiful next couple days and can really be settled in that when you are walking this path and you are keeping yourself solid in that way, God will lead you to where you need to be. Sometimes you have to look into the darkness to finally know what true light is. Much love and God bless.